And voila. All right, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I am Jonathan Carford, aka Coach K, and I'm very, very excited to have our group here today. I'm going to get my screen share real quick. We're going to do an official intro and make sure we can get everything rolling. But first, before I show the slides, I want to make sure everyone. I just want to introduce everyone here. We have our esteemed guest, Mark Turner, who is the VP of RevOps over at Demandbase. Welcome, sir. You're on this side, actually. And then we have Ashley Wilson, who is the COO and co-founder of Momentum. And now we have my wonderful bald brother from another mother, David Ellen, who is a consultant with Winning by Design. Very excited to have you all. So just want to say thank you. I'm going to get this up and running because I know people are just joined in as we go right now. And want to make sure, tell me you guys see this okay? We good? Great. Voila. So today, our topic is increasing methodology adoption with AI. Again, forgive me for my voice. Thankfully, I'm not going to be talking a lot today, but I'm really excited to go over this topic with Mark. A couple of housekeeping notes. I want to go through a couple of things for those of you who may not know a whole lot about this series. The whole purpose of the AI Advantage is designed to showcase how leaders are leveraging AI to create real impact and outcomes with their teams. So we've had Kyle Norton, the CRO of Owner. We've had Toby Carrington, who is the Chief Business Officer at Seismic. Had some great discussions there. We have our links on the website if you want to see those. And then obviously today we have Mark, which I'm really excited about. As the teachers for next time, we have Amanda Whiteside, who's a global VP of Revenue Enablement. Interestingly enough, she leads the AI strategy and implementation for their team. And so the talk we're going to have is around this topic of like, okay, so you bought AI, now what? I'm going to deep dive into what she's doing for ROI, how she decides on keeping something or not, how to actually get things integrated and implemented. It'll be a great chat for that here in February 25th on at noon Eastern. So we'll be sending out the invite for that and the information as a follow-up to this webinar.
She's at Freshworks. I just realized
thank you. We didn't get that
company on there.
Yeah, we did. We'll get that. She's a VP of Freshworks. Really, really excited of having her. We had a great intro call, and this will be a good discussion. And today, just to make sure you know, we are what's called methodology agnostic. Since we're talking about methodology, we have worked with a bunch of different types of methodologies. Obviously, these are some of the bigger names known. And I would just want to make sure that is known as we go through this. Today, we are featuring Winning by Design, but we are agnostic in how we can apply methodologies to different methodologies. The cool thing is we are a certified technology partner of Winning by Design. And if you're familiar with this is our design version of their bow tie. Momentum sits underneath each stage of what is needed. This is called the data model with Winning by Design. And we extract data on every part of this so that any team that has any part to do with this data can get the information they need from Momentum, which is pretty cool. So I'm really excited about this partnership. We'll be doing a little bit more events and some other thought leadership with Winning by Design, just because our technology fits really well with their data model and other places. Now I'm going to shut up for a second. Actually, I'm going to hand it over to you for a couple slides. I'll let you talk about Momentum.
Yeah. I thought it would be helpful to kind of just set the tone for what we do as a tool. So you know that, like we said, we want to make these webinars about kind of how practitioners and companies are actually using, kind of applying AI in their sales process or their go-to-market process. But if they're using Momentum, a big value that we bring is just saying, hey, one of the challenges we see is that we're expecting humans, our reps, our CSMs, to do all of the kind of data extraction from these calls. You know, you get on a call with a customer, you're chatting for 30 minutes or an hour, so much is being shared back and forth. Anything from, pricing objections, competitors, how they're responding to your pitch. And then we as the reps have to then go into Salesforce and try to translate that, input it, and do that in the 5 minutes or less that we have between the next call. And so we're just finding that now with AI, we have a new way that we can kind of extract this out and really just free up reps and CSM's time to be focusing on the conversation and working the deals more efficiently. So if we go to the next slide, we really are a kind of an AI data pipeline that plugs into your existing conversational data sources. So today, that might be the transcripts that are getting generated via Zoom or Google Meet, or if you're using something like Gong or Clary Copilot. We also are bringing in emails. So of course, some of the context from a conversation happens over email. You usually don't get broken up with by a customer or a prospect, really. Customers usually get on a call with you, but a prospect doesn't usually tell you they're not interested over a call, but they do tell you over email. And we're working on bringing in things like Zendesk tickets, intercom, basically chat. We have a lot of support in for SMS. So all of that goes into Momentum's kind of brain. We're built on top of OpenAI. And then we extract out the insights that you want using your own prompts, and we push it to the systems of record. So we push it to Salesforce, we push it to Snowflake for some customers. We also use Slack for the visibility layer. And I think Mark will probably talk about how Demandbase is leveraging a lot of Momentum for both the CRM capture and kind of enforcing some of the sales methodology, but also how Slack just becomes this great way to meet leadership, reps, account managers where they're at, and kind of serve things up on demand as needed. Cool. So I think we have one more slide. Yeah, this is just kind of seeing it in action. So that turns into things like saving a note after every call in Salesforce, updating fields, whether it's spiced, medpic, even just next steps, pushing that into Salesforce, picking up churn signals. So there are lots of different ways that people are utilizing Momentum. It's a very flexible platform. And then we have a lot of these just sort of out of the box use cases that you can turn on and in one day start to see some value from using a tool like Momentum.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, that is the end of our lovely slides. And now we're going to dive into some nitty gritty stuff. So before we get into some details, Mark, my man, I know you guys have just been in the middle of all this stuff. I want to give us some context on Demandbase, on the methodology, and kind of like why you decided to go the way you're going, and give us some foundation. I'll kind of dive into some questions.
Yeah, so about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, we realized, we had been successful as a company, but there wasn't a lot of structure or process. And in order to get to the next level, you got to implement some repeatable systems and repeatable process so that you know what's working, what doesn't work, and how do you tweak. How do you find the good of all of that and get all the sellers to do it, and then have a coaching tool that allows everybody to say, this is the way we sell, this is how we speak about our product, this is how we speak to our customers, this is the language that we use, and having kind of a unified language across our entire revenue team. And so we went to market and partnered with Winning by Design and the SPICE methodology. And Winning by Design over the past year has helped us remap our go-to-market motion. They've helped us think through SPICE and how it relates to Demandbase. They've helped us think through all of the players that we have on our side and how they touch a customer along that journey, starting with our ICP and kind of where do we want to go and who are we successful with, all the way through renewing our best customers at the highest value. And so they've been instrumental in helping us along that journey from start to finish.
Love it, man. Well, let's dive in for a second on, like, for you, your perspective is leading the RevOps and all the other things you have to do. Like, what have been some of the things you've seen as, and I know you're in the middle of, like, you've had some changes internally, you've had to kind of refresh some things, but like, what have been some of the better outcomes you've seen as a result of the whole process?
Just, yeah, so it starts with everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. We did an exercise as a team prior to Winning by Design, and we had every team on sticky notes put down what they do with the customer throughout the sales process. And I think at one point, 7 teams said they did strategy. And you can see everybody had different color sticky note, and there's a rainbow of sticky notes under this one item. And you go, okay, if everybody's doing strategy, is anybody actually doing strategy? And that was just one example, but that was mirrored across the entire customer journey that we had at the time. A lot of overlap, a lot of undefined roles, a lot of gaps as well, right? There were not people who were performing key processes because it hadn't been mapped out. It's just kind of been knowledge through hand-me-down as opposed to a documented system. So as a RevOps leader, I can now see what is our optimal process and how do we build systems to support that, and then measure the impact of each one of those points of contact, right? If we turn this dial, can we improve our win rates by a percentage point? If we turn another dial, can we improve our ASP by a percentage point? All with the goal of increasing rep productivity, meaning bookings per rep, and getting more efficient there, getting our reps paid more, right? If they're bringing more in, they're going to get paid more, which is better for everybody.
Did you have another methodology? Sorry, Coach, just curious before this, like what, or was it kind of a piecemeal? Because I feel like a lot of times we hear, like, yeah, we kind of do a version of X, Y, or Z.
When I walked into Demandbase about 18 months ago, we had a medic object in Salesforce that had 0 data in it, as you would expect. And as we started along the winning by design process, we had heard, oh, this is going to be our 4th or 5th methodology in 6 years. And I think a couple of us were new to the organization and said, that's great, but we need to have one, and this is the one we're going to pick, and we're going to be fully invested in it. And that message started from our CEO Gabe all the way down.
Nice. Well, and obviously today is all about the AI side of it. So like, I will say, just listening to you, that when I go in to talk to companies about any type of AI implementation, the key part of it is understanding your process and all the documents and all the stuff, because AI does not run well when that's not identified, right? So now that you've identified those key things, like, how did you go about thinking about where do we interject AI to make sure that it's doing what we actually need done for the methodology?
Yeah, so a lot of it starts with what Ashley talked about. What are we asking our reps to capture on every call, and how do we get that without them having to physically type it up or write it up and almost do it better than a human can do it, because it's more nuanced. And so we've actually done a lot of work with the Momentum team, who has worked with Winning by Design on crafting prompts to get the information around SPICE methodology and answering the different questions throughout situation, pain, impact, rational impact, critical event, and decision. So again, as you mentioned, it's methodology agnostic. You can craft the same prompts for medic. You can craft them for spin or what is it, 4 Whys or anything. But it allows our sellers to ask the questions we're training them to ask without having to pause and think and write down the answers to those questions. And that's kind of where we started from, is, okay, this is what we're asking our teams to do now under the new methodology. How do we as RevOps make it as easy as possible for them to adopt that methodology and capture that information to allow our leaders to then go inspect and say, hey, I see you have this deal in stage 3. We've set stage gates for stage 1 and stage 2. It doesn't look like you've completed those stage gates or asked those questions based on the AI pulling that data out of your conversation. Right. What gives you the confidence that it's now in stage 3, which impacts your forecast? So that's kind of where it started.
When you've done, I'm assuming you've done methodologies.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, you're bringing up a good point, because I think that you're hitting on that. We talked to some leaders that maybe haven't fully bought into the idea of AI for XYZ as like, well, I don't want my reps to not do this work anymore. And I think what you're saying is that you as an organization still invested in the training, working with Winning by Design. It had to come from the top down. They still have to ask all the right questions. We just become Momentum, or any sort of AI tool just becomes an assistant, a support, but it doesn't fundamentally replace all the other work you have to do. Can you speak to that? Because I think that that's something that I hear a lot, and it's like hard to kind of understand that, like, no, this is going to fit in, but it's not a silver bullet if you don't do everything else.
No, the Momentum is supporting of the effort, right? There's still a behavioral change. There's still a language change that has to go into the organization. You're almost pulling out one lifeblood and putting another lifeblood back in, transfusing Winning by Design throughout the entire org. Momentum allows us to measure if that's happening, right? You can enter keyword trackers. We have an enablement summary that gets kicked out every week. How are our teams talking about it? Are we hearing not the language we're looking for at scale? And so Momentum is listening to every call that every team member has with every single one of our prospects or customers, and we can flag where these things are not being adopted. And it says, great, we need to go enable this group, or we need to reinforce this method, this language, because it's not being picked up, or we're seeing adoption, and they are using the terminology, they are asking the questions. When we're looking at our spiced deal board where it has every opportunity and all the information, we're seeing not just population of data. That's every RevOps nightmare. You put a period into a field and the field is completed, but you're seeing good data, right? There's snippets of value coming out in each one of these fields that not just revenue leaders, but marketing can use, product can use. We're pulling out product feedback. We're pulling out risk notifications that go directly to a whole risk channel, as well as we're starting to use the momentum account rooms. And so everybody that's involved with the account gets notified, and it spins up a whole other conversation of how do we go save this account. And now that with Winning by Design, we've remapped our account plans, and all of this information lives in a unified system, as opposed to pieces living in Churn Zero, pieces living in Salesforce, pieces living in a Google Sheet. It's now all centralized in Salesforce as our system of record. And then it goes out to those pieces as necessary. But anybody can go where they need to go, and they all see the same information around any risk notifications or forecast notifications, budget concerns from the customer. And we have plays now that run off of that. So
nice.
Mark, wouldn't you say that it's added to your consistency in terms of capturing data? Because now everything's getting mapped to the right field. It's being done in a consistent way. You've eliminated the human error of putting data in the wrong fields, and then you have inaccurate data. And hasn't it helped optimize what data you are looking at? Absolutely.
As we started this process, we had some metrics around adoption of the SPICE methodology. It's like, we want 75% of our deals to have SPICE filled out. With Momentum, it's 100% of the deals because the tool's just doing it. You're not waiting on a human to go put their notes in. You're not bugging them for next steps. It's great. These are the next steps that were discussed. Now go do them. And why haven't you done them, as opposed to why haven't you put your notes in Salesforce?
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of ways you can take this. I do want to get to Ian's thought in the comments. I know you kind of talked about a couple of the products that Momentum does. Could you take one example of like what he's asking about, basically saying, how do you identify who's adopting, who's not, and how do you help those who struggle using either Momentum or something else, or whatever you're doing with AI?
Yeah. So again, this is where the Momentum executive summaries or briefs come into play. So we have a brief that highlights where it's being used or where it hasn't been used. It comes back with a snippet of the clip, so we can celebrate those that are using it. When the tool does not hear the information that we are looking for within the SPICE methodology, it doesn't put any data into the fields. And so again, with our deal boards, we have all the deals, we have the SPICE fields, and it's very glaring where there is not data, because every other field has bullet points of information around the methodology. And so those are the reps that we can work with and say, hey, it looks like you're not asking the right questions, or you're not digging into the right pieces of information. Here's some coaching around how to dig into more of their situation. The Momentum team's been very good around making sure there's no hallucinations with our prompts. And if it doesn't find what it's supposed to be looking for, it doesn't put anything in there, which is also a lifesaver, right? Because you can load things up into other things, and it's going to give you an answer if you don't prompt it properly.
What's interesting about this is, like, in the past, I've rolled out, I don't know how many methodologies, but in the past, people would use CRM data entry as a way to help adopt the methodology, because that's when they can get them to force them to think about whatever the concept is. Whereas now, like, if they don't ask a specific part of SPICE, it just doesn't exist, which to you on a dashboard then says you're not asking the question. So then they don't have to have the work of data entry. They have the work of speaking it. Like, that's the change they have to do it. So the energy that they can focus on conversations is better, because then you can focus on the actual relationship and what's happening, versus just putting in the right notes and thinking about it from after the call, Yeah. So
from a RevOps forecasting perspective, right? Decision, by the time you're getting there, do you know the decision path? Do you know the signer? Yeah. Is the signer going to be out of office? We just went through the holiday period. Everybody's on vacation. you have a commit deal coming December 24th. We're seeing via the momentum that the signer is on vacation. Like, what is your workaround plan for that? Maybe we should take that deal out. So that's also very helpful. Is we're now getting that granularity versus just hoping they put the data.
Hoping.
Yeah.
I imagine too that like your coaching has changed. That the conversations between a manager and a rep is because you have even the conversation of the data's not there, and I know it's not there because you didn't ask the questions. You're much more focused on what you're trying to get at with winning by design is like surfacing the right conversations to move the deal forward, not focusing on like, why did you not update the CRM or what's actually happening here? Can you speak to like how the coaching has evolved at Demandbase with this new process?
So all of our sales managers, including our execs and RevOps leaders as well, went through the Winning by Design Managing for Impact training. And so that is around having effective, structured one-on-ones, deal reviews, pipeline reviews, as well as just performance information. And again, the data that we are able to provide them to have those structured conversation is being fed by momentum. And so again, to your point, it's not you didn't update it. It's not in, it's not in stage 3. It's more around hey, it's in stage 3, but I'm not seeing that you've understood, the exit criteria from stage 1 to stage 2. Let's go back and make sure that we understand the situation. Do we really have a pain that we're looking for? Or do we just have a happy ears situation? And we think, we're going to come to find out that we don't have the value that we thought we had.
Yeah, I like that. Dave, I'm going to pick on you for a second. So we talked about this yesterday in the pre-call. In these situations where you're trying to help different companies adopt to a methodology, like I'm sure you've seen people who do it with or without AI. Like, what do you see the differences from your lens?
I think the biggest difference when they use AI is they're getting, as Mark said before, they're getting consistency, right? They don't have to worry about waiting for a human to do something. It's being done automatically in the background. And the other advantage that I see is they can very easily look at data across all sales reps, all customer success teams, and start pulling out themes that they're seeing across teams. Whereas if I'm a sales leader and I've got 3 reps, I'm only looking at those 3 reps, right? Mark has the ability to look across all sales teams and all reps and all frontline managers and look for themes that are taking place that might impact their product roadmap, for example, or some sort of customer sentiment that they're seeing across their customer base, as opposed to just one little area. So that's one. And then the other thing I think that's key is because the AI is pulling out what the customer is saying in the customer's language, the rep has the ability to talk to the customer and use the words that the customer used in their own language, instead of summarizing it and maybe misinforming or using the wrong words and misinterpreting what a customer might have said.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Mark, 2 things for you. One is, I'd love to hear about could we talk just briefly about some of the other AI tools you're thinking about from a methodology adoption viewpoint? And then the second question will be like, what are you excited about coming when it comes to the same topic? But let's first start with, besides momentum, obviously, what else are you using?
Yeah, I think before we jump, I wanted to share a quote from a rep that we received the other day after we kind of hit live on our momentum data capture. It was a screenshot of his deal. Is this stuff being auto-populated? I didn't do it. The call just ended. This is freaking awesome. I think just getting that screenshot as a RevOps leader and going, okay, something we're doing here is actually landing, and the team is excited about it. Is a huge win. So
awesome.
Historically, you hear all the problems, you're not always getting a lot of the positive.
No,
feedback.
You're asking me to do something else. Oh man, I can't believe it. So back to your question, I think other tools that we're using. So we're a Churn Zero customer. We use Churn Zero AI for account summaries for our customer success managers. But again, that information is also being fed from what we're capturing with momentum. So that data is populating into CRM and then pulling into Churn Zero. We're also using LinkedIn Sales Insights AI account summaries, where we can find out other ways we can help customers execute their strategies or any new strategies they might be launching as we go forward. we're going to pitch. Demandbase has AI account summaries as well.
You got to pitch, man. Let's hear it. Yeah.
We drink our own champagne. We have AI buying groups. So who is based on your data, who are the best people that you should be looking for to talk with in your prospects. And then, a ton of AI stuff on the SDR side, right? I think that's where the market has really gone to. How do you personalize at scale your outreach sequences, your sales walk sequences? And that's also kind of where we're investing, both on the new logo coming in as well as prospecting within the customer base.
I'm curious because we're talking about just methodology itself, like with Demandbase and some of the AI capabilities. How are you thinking about it this next year when it comes to this whole concept around methodology or anything like that?
Yeah, so our big bet is the centralization of data into an account plan. Account plan is probably the wrong word. It's like an account summary so that everybody understands where we are with the customer. And nice. that information is coming from multiple sources, including Churn Zero and playbooks. But our hope is that we are able to automate that for reps at the click of a button. Hey, it's time for my book review. Generate my top 10 account plans. Let me understand where we are across our customers.
Nice.
And go forward.
That's awesome.
It's one of our most requested features.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
stay tuned on how we're going to help with that.
I can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Our account plan is fully aligned to our methodology. It starts in awareness. Yeah. It ends in growth. And it goes again. So
that's what I think we're seeing with AI is just it builds on itself, that it's you start with kind of what are the lower level tasks that just take off the time, but then we all know that like it can do very, very good synthesis of material that actually is starting to become like, oh, that's better than I would have written it. It's better than I would have synthesized it even. So I see it as like this building blocks for organizations to start with, just get the data flowing. And then from there, you can really build on top of it to bring real kind of strategic value to teams.
Yeah, I mean, even for us, we every week we get a summary across like a CRO summary, what's going well, what's not going well. We get a product summary, what are the customers saying, and then we get an enablement summary, and it's listening to 500 plus calls. The amount of time that would take a human to listen to those calls and synthesize that data and then spit out a succinct, actionable summary is a time saver, huge time saver.
Can we, in the last 3 minutes, Wayne, do you see that question from Wayne? Real quick, I'd love to hear your answer on that one.
Prospect mentions evaluating a specific customer. Sure. So in one of our prompts, we do have a competitor prompt. We have that hooked up to a Salesforce field where we've prompted momentum with our top competitors. Every time it's mentioned, it throws a flag both in an account room where could be a risk or it could be an opportunity if it's a new logo. If they mention a competitor, we kind of see that as they're actually serious about buying a solution, not just shopping for us. Obviously, if they're a customer, it's more of a risk. So it goes different ways on that, and then it goes into Salesforce data where we can use it for win-loss analysis as well.
Yeah. There to piggyback off of what you're saying with momentum, there's a lot of things. Like I use momentum as a customer in a past life. I use momentum all over the place for sales enablement, from call coaching reviews to they have a function called playbook, which like brings up things in a deal room saying, hey, here's your next steps for your exit criteria based on the stage. There's all these really, really cool things you can do with it. So it really is, it's kind of a flexible tool that can be applied in a lot of ways based on what someone may need in the enablement side. And then Ashley, can you answer Charles's question? Is that okay? Around his?
Yeah. I think what you're getting at is how do we kind of get into, how is it picking up what could be sort of subjective on saying, how do we progress to the next stage? So I'll say that I think where we differ from, if you were to just take a transcript and plug it into ChatGPT, is that you're going to get an answer. It's going to tell you something. What Momentum has on top of that, and we're built on top of OpenAI, is all of the Salesforce metadata, the past histories, if there are previous calls, if there's emails. I think the context that you're feeding it is equally as important as just the out-of-the-box LLM experience, which is already pretty magical the first time you use it. But then once you get into, hey, I need to have more context to know what is it really saying about this deal. And then I think that's where the human side comes in to kind of complete the work of the rep saying, yeah, this is pretty accurate. I'm going to move it, or I'm going to move it automatically with Momentum, because Momentum can do a workflow to move the stage based on, in a call, I'm going to say to Mark, hey, I'm ready to do a POC with Demandbase. The LLM is going to pick up POC. I'm ready. It can move the stage criteria. But that's where we're still doing deal reviews with a team, with a manager, to just like sanity check, were we right here? And I think what we find is that it goes into, do you want to prioritize, you want to make sure you have quality, but you also, if you take Demandbase's instance where you walked into no fields being filled in, even if we're not perfect, I think diving in and just trying to get something spinning up, some information flowing, is going to outweigh the kind of old way of doing things, which is just relying on people. So like, let's get it in, and then we can start to refine and make it really, really good. And again, I think it's a combination of like humans checking it, and that's where something like Momentum, being very like a verticalized AI platform, we can just go deep into making sure that this is very applicable for revenue teams.
Totally. Love it. Mark, we're at a time. I like to be a time Nazi. Just want to make sure we're aware of everyone's time and just say thank you so much for your time. David, thank you so much for joining. Love to have your thoughts on it. I will be sending out the follow-up to this. We have a couple of bonuses you'll see once I send it out to you all besides the recording. But just want to tell you guys all thank you so much for joining, and until next time, see you guys on the other side.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.